Hello and welcome inside another edition of Phillies Nation. I'm Rachel McCauley. I'm joined by Kevin Cooney and Corey Seidman. Pat Gallen has the week off this week. Guys, the Phillies are the worst team in baseball at the break. They have the franchise worst record at the All-Star break. What have you seen so far? Assess the damage so far in the first half. It's kind of been ugly.
Yeah, the Phillies are 29-62, the most losses they've ever had by the All-Star break. They've been outscored by 160 runs, which is more than twice as much as the next worst team. The White Sox next worst at minus 73. I went back and I looked at the Houston Astros. I mean, that was the worst team we've seen in recent years. Their worst year, when they went 51-111 a few years ago, they were 4 games better at the All-Star break than the Phillies are right now. They'd been outscored by 30 runs fewer. So yeah, I mean, by all accounts, we knew this was going to be a tough year, but it's even worse than expected, wouldn't you say, Kev?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, I think we all thought this had a possibility of a 100-loss season. They're going to blow 100 losses away at this point. I mean, you know, at 62, they're playing .235 baseball since May 18th. They're 12-39. I mean, and this is with Cole Hamels on the roster. This is with Jonathan Papelbon on the roster. This is as bad as you could possibly imagine a scenario of trying to move the franchise along. And now you got to wonder, how does this get better in any way in the second half? I mean, because the schedule actually looks a little tougher than it did. You're done with the Milwaukees. You're done with the Colorados. You know, that's where I think you have a real issue for this franchise, that it's going to get a lot bleaker, and you don't want to create a losing atmosphere with the young guys coming up. You don't want to create a culture and a disgruntlement, and that's where a lot of this stuff is going to have to be curbed real quick as you start the second half.
Yeah, and I think we knew it would be pretty bad, but I'm not sure if we knew it was going to be this ugly. So, most impressive. Let's look at some positives. Who's been your most impressive Philly so far? I mean, it's really got to be Maikel Franco, right?
I would think so. I mean, Maikel Franco has been the one guy that looks like a legitimate piece for the future. I mean, you could say Cesar Hernandez, a guy like that, but I mean, how bad is it when you're looking at a 280 singles hitter as the biggest positive of the first half? Franco has kind of cooled off a little bit since the games at Yankee Stadium. Last 11 games, no homers, no RBIs, 10 strikeouts, but I think the more important thing is that he looks like a major league player. He's hitting solid pitching. The Bumgarners of the world, the Strasburgs, Aroldis Chapman he homered off of. So that's been the brightest sign. How about you, Kev? Who do you got?
Well, I mean, the most positive thing, to be honest, is the lone All-Star. I think Jonathan Papelbon, because if you looked at it coming into the year, there was questions about whether Jonathan Papelbon was going to have any trade value, because there was all that baggage of the contract and his attitude. Well, his attitude for the most part has been really good, and his numbers have been terrific, to the point where you could see the contract doesn't look quite as imposing. The Phillies are going to have to eat some of it, but the contract is good enough that you think, all right, maybe a team will take a shot on him, as opposed to the last couple of trade deadlines where realistically they weren't going to be able to move Papelbon.
Yeah, so those are the biggest positives. I guess the next question would be, who's the biggest negative? Who do you have there, Rachel?
Yeah, I got to go with Chase Utley. I mean, I think that's kind of the popular one, but you know, I think people knew he was kind of on the decline. He's getting older, but it's been really bad. You know, he might have put himself on the DL to kind of give himself some time to get those knees better, or the ankle injury that he suffered in the offseason, but it's been bad.
I'll go with a guy who's not here anymore. It's Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah.
I mean, that Ryan Sandberg came in here with an idea. He knew what he was getting into in a way. For him to just up and quit, and ever since then, since Pete Mackanin took over, I think almost through no fault of Pete, they're 3-15. That just shows that once that happened, everything has crumbled for this franchise and cratered.
A lot of times you'll see when there's a managerial switch, a team that's struggling starts to play really good baseball, but I think that the problem here is there just isn't enough talent to play that really good baseball. Most disappointing for me, I'm going to go with a group. I'm going to go with the Phillies starting pitchers, because I know that they put together this rotation filled with Cole Hamels and a bunch of guys who throw like 88 to 90 with not a whole lot of movement, but the fact that the Phillies enter the All-Star break with a 5.44 ERA from their starting rotation, worst in baseball in terms of ERA from their starters. 296 opponents batting average, that's worst. 77 home runs, that's worst. So the pitching hasn't gotten the Phillies off to a good foot. I know Pete Mackanin said on the final day of the first half that he thinks it's going to get better because the offense has started clicking, but the problem is there are just so many early deficits and it doesn't really matter a lot.
Right, exactly. So let's look ahead to the second half. What are you looking for in the second half? What do you see happening at the trade deadline? I think Hamels and Papelbon will be the ones to go, but what do you think?
Well, I think last year we all thought that like Bird, Rollins, Hamels, Lee, Papelbon, Howard, Utley, that some of these guys might move, and it was a stand-pat trade deadline. And I kind of fear that might be what happens again this year, because there's not the real clear clearness of who's in charge, whether it's Andy McPhail, whether it's Ruben Amaro calling the shots, or Pat Gillick. I personally, I don't know about you, Kev, I don't buy that McPhail's not going to have any input on the trade deadline. What do you think?
I think he has to have some say because he's going to be left with whatever's left here. But I kind of think along the lines of what Rachel said, you have to get Papelbon and Hamels out of here. Both of them made it pretty well known that, hey, they want to kind of move on to a contender because you only have so many prime years and so many shots left, especially when you get on that side of 30.
And I think the even scarier thing is if they're here on August 1st, I mean, we saw last year, Cliff Lee wasn't traded at the deadline, and literally that night of the trade deadline, he hurt his elbow. He's pitched, 2-3 games since. He's probably never going to start for the Phillies again, and that's a huge albatross of a contract. What happens if Papelbon or Hamels get hurt between August 1st and the end of the season? That's going to have a huge negative impact.
And the market's just not going to be there that they think may happen, post in the winter, because you're going to have, Johnny Cueto out there, Zach Greinke. You're going to have a lot of good starting pitchers, Jordan Zimmerman. That for Hamels especially, I just don't see where his value goes up the longer you wait. This is the time to strike.
And real quick, the last thing I want to say, Ben Revere and Jeff Francoeur, two guys to watch. Seattle and the Angels have both been interested in Revere, who has hit better each month this season, up to 297 at the All-Star break. Francoeur, there was a report that came out from the Pirates. They may be looking at him as a platoon outfielder. I'd expect to see those two go, even if Hamels and Papelbon stay.
And who would have thought heading into the season the Phillies might get something out of Jeff Francoeur when they sign him to a minor league deal.
Yeah.
So it'll certainly be interesting for watch, that's for sure. Coming up on Phillies Nation, Jay Floyd catches up with Mark Leiter when we return.
Phillies Nation is presented by BQ Basement Systems, the Philadelphia region's premier basement contractor.
I'm Brian Quinn from BQ Basement Systems. Call us for all things basement-y. Ask us about our polylevel concrete leveling system. It's a cost-effective, less disruptive, permanent solution, and it has a quick cure time. It can be driven over or walked on in 15 minutes after installation. Since 1997, over 7,000 customers have trusted us. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
If you're a sports fan, you need to check out Sports Vault. Our stores will surround you with a great selection of autographed memorabilia, licensed apparel, trading cards, and novelties. Want to meet your favorite local and national superstars? Sports Vault brings the legends to you with dozens of in-store appearances. Check out any of our 3 locations in King of Prussia, Exton, or Moorestown. Or visit sportsvaultshop.com and use the code PhilliesNation to save 20% on your next order of autographed merchandise.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Philly has a long sports history filled with great players and moments. Shibe Vintage Sports in Center City relives the glory years with fashionable attire for all your favorite teams. Separate yourself from the crowd with the hippest Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers gear. Pick up some unique shirts featuring local teams of yesteryear, or come to fun events where you can learn about your favorite teams. So if you're a sports fan, then you need to check out Shibe Vintage Sports. Visit them at 13th and Walnut or shibesports.com.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. I'm Rachel McCauley. This segment is brought to you by the Sports Vault. Save 25% on Mike Franco autographed bats and framed photos this week. Look for Deal of the Week at sportsvaultshop.com. First up, our own Jay Floyd caught up with Reading pitcher Mark Leiter Jr., who was selected in the 22nd round of the 2013 MLB Draft. Mark Leiter comes from a family of pitchers, his father and uncle, all spending time in the big leagues.
Recently promoted AA pitcher Mark Leiter Jr. has wanted to pitch for the Phillies since he was a little kid because it's an organization that's in his blood.
Growing up, my dad would bring me to the locker room and, I get to shag BP on the big league fields and stuff like that, and I always dreamed that I would get my chance to do the same thing. So have the opportunity to be in the Philadelphia Phillies organization, and I wanted to write that as my job title whenever I was asked what you want to be when you grow up, and people said pick a real profession or something, and that was a real profession to me. That's what I knew, and that's what I always got to see.
A recent addition to the AA Reading staff, after a terrific start for High A Clearwater, Leiter credits his battery mate, fellow Florida State League All-Star Andrew Knapp, for his success.
He deserves as much credit as I do for my success. You know, he's doing a really great job. So it would have been nice to play in the All-Star game with him, maybe throw to him in the game, but I'm super excited to be up here.
One of Leiter's coaches with Reading, former Phil's second baseman Mickey Morandini, saw plenty of Mark's dad, Mark Leiter Sr., during his career and sees similarities between the two.
Mark was a real good pitcher, but he was a pitcher. He knew how to pitch. He knew when to throw pitches in certain situations. He never gave in to hitters. Had some movement on his ball. He was a real grinder, and that's kind of the way we see Junior here. Is he's going to go after you. Once again, he's not afraid to pitch. He has confidence in all of his pitches. You know, if he's got to throw a 3-2 changeup, he's not afraid to throw it. If he's got to start you off with a breaking ball, whatever it may be, he's going to do it. So I think he's a real smart pitcher, and he knows how to pitch.
Along with the support he receives from his family, Mark Jr. uses his father as an on-demand coach whenever he needs him.
It's something that I was very blessed to have. You know, it's a great opportunity to have that kind of mentoring behind the scenes. You know, there's different situations that come up in minor league baseball that, like, you could be frustrated with the day or something, or just the process, or you know, or the successes of it, and to be able to share that with like my dad and have him kind of bounce back a story that he had from, you know, 1984. He's got stories that'll match whatever I say to him, and he's like, it's the same thing as I went through, or whatever. It's the same thing that baseball is the same thing. You know, that stuff always is going to happen.
But no matter how many achievements he makes, Leiter's first memories of baseball will always lie with the Phillies of the 1990s.
I caught my first fly ball off the bat at the vet, so during BP. That was awesome. Alex Arias hit it. And I remember being in Wrigley one time. I forgot my shirt, so we went to the store and we couldn't find any red shirts, so we got like a turtleneck. And my dad ended up getting fined in kangaroo court because, you know, I was wearing a long sleeve shirt in 98 degree Chicago. I think he got out of it because everybody knew that I wouldn't go on the field unless I was wearing something similar to the team. So I'm able to remember those things and also use them to feel ready for the present, you know.
And Jay Floyd joins us now. Jay, what have you seen out of Mark Leiter Jr. so far? He's kind of struggled as of late.
Yeah, a couple rough outings from Mark Jr. 10 earned runs over his last 2 outings in 8 1/3 innings. And, he's the type of guy that, people would question maybe velocity, how that would pan out at the AA level. But, his secondary pitches are fairly refined. He's just looking to, build on some success there at the AA level. And the coaches, pretty much like what they see from him so far, and he'll get it going.
And so Mark Leiter Jr. is one of the members of that AA rotation. Aaron Nola went up from AA to AAA after having a ton of success. And, Nola and Crawford, who were both at the Futures game on Sunday, those two guys entered the season the Phillies 1 and 2 prospects, and they have delivered. I mean, the Phillies need both of them to really be at their apex. And those two guys, at least so far, have been more advanced than the levels they've been at. What have been your early impressions this year on Nola and Crawford?
Nola's been amazing, all the way up in AAA now, just a year out of the draft, 13 months out of the draft or so. Talk about guys with refined offerings. He's the guy that's going to, provide precise, precision secondary pitches. He can hit both sides of the plate in any count. And, he's got considerable poise, considerable confidence, everything you're going to want to see out of a starting pitcher for sure.
And J.P. Crawford hasn't skipped a beat either since his promotion to AA. He has more walks than strikeouts.
Yeah, that's a tremendous factor. Great offensive production for J.P. Very mature for his age. Coaches will always cite his leadership abilities, and that really stands out for everybody. Great athleticism from him. And just his ability to get on base is just a big factor and something that's really going to help the Phillies going forward.
Jesse Biddle's kind of had a rough AAA debut since getting promoted to there. It seems to be all between the ears with him. What have you seen since he's joined AAA?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that people would grow concerned about with Jesse, fearful that he'll develop a Philippe Almont complex, things getting between, in his head, control issues and things like that. But he's a guy that's really determined, always wants to keep his team in the game. So he's a type that'll really be focused on taking a lesson from any tough outing. So look for Jesse to bounce back in his second outing at AAA. But 7 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings in a debut at the level. Not what you want to see out of your former first-round pick from 2010, but he'll get it going, and he's a guy that'll take lessons from stuff like that.
What I will say is don't pay attention to Jesse Biddle's ERA this season. I think it's over 4, but that really hasn't been the story to me. The story to me has been he's getting outs earlier in counts. A lot of ground balls. The strikeouts are down, but the walks are down significantly too. I know he walked 5 or 6 batters in his AAA debut. A lot of those came in 1 inning though, and that's the problem. Is that Jesse Biddle will have 2 innings where he'll be perfect, 1, 2, 3 innings, and then all of a sudden it snowballs and he can't minimize the damage. I think that's what the Phillies really need to see at AAA, is an ability to work in and out of jams for Jesse Biddle.
Yeah, and to stay calm under pressure situations. Who else is standing out in the farm to you?
I mean, you're looking at guys like Zach Eflin, who's an Eastern League All-Star for the AA Reading Titans. You know, he had a tough outing when we saw him last month in Trenton against the Thunder. But later that night, where teammates want to be social and hang out and get loose, he was focused on the nearby televisions watching Clayton Kershaw perfect his outing. So a guy that wants to take lessons from his own outings and anything else that he can do around him, for sure.
It's pretty cool. How about offensively? Who's kind of stood out? I know the Phillies they don't have a ton of power hitting prospects. Has there been anybody in this first half, whether it's at single A, double A, triple A, that's impressed you with some pop?
Yeah, I mean, we did a feature recently on a first base prospect that's now promoted to High A Clearwater, Rhys Hoskins. So he's a guy you want to look out for. You know, guys, Phillies are going to need fillers at first base in the coming years, if not sooner than the coming years, for sure.
Yeah.
So Rhys Hoskins is a guy to look out for, power hitting first baseman down with the Threshers.
Catcher's been an area that the Phillies are pretty thin down in their minor league system, but Andrew Knapp's been a guy that's done pretty well so far.
Yeah, progressing nicely. Andrew Knapp he's a second-round pick from a couple years back. About 14 months out of Tommy John surgery, and really, Phillies like what they see from him. They've had a couple early round picks for catcher. Cameron Rupp's a guy that's thrived out of that draft spot. So they're looking for Andrew Knapp to be the next guy to really move up, having a nice offensive level of production with the Reading Titans so far in AA. So look for good things and keep an eye on Andrew Knapp for sure.
All right, Jay, thank you very much for joining us. When we come back on Phillies Nation, Kevin Wilson give us his intro on bunting.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lenny Roberts from Summit Spine and Wellness. For well over a decade, we've been helping people in the greater Philadelphia region reach their health goals. If you suffer from stress and tension in your neck, have low back pain, or experience sciatica, let our experts take care of you. Clients also love our stress-relieving massage therapy and easy-to-follow nutrition plans. You don't have to live with your pain and discomfort. We can help. Your initial consultation is free. Call Summit Spine and Wellness now at 215-487-2500.
Spring is in the air. Unfortunately, for many of our Delaware Valley customers, spring means wet basements and crawl spaces. If this is something you struggle with, call BQ Basement Systems. We're the experts in identifying where the water is coming in from, how to get it out, how to keep it out for good. Give BQ a call, and one of our certified inspectors will come out to give you a free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
Philly has a long sports history filled with great players and moments. Shibe Vintage Sports in Center City relives the glory years with fashionable attire for all your favorite teams. Separate yourself from the crowd with the hippest Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers gear. Pick up some unique shirts featuring local teams of yesteryear, or come to fun events where you can learn about your favorite teams. So if you're a sports fan, then you need to check out Shibe Vintage Sports. Visit them at 13th and Walnut or shibesports.com.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. I'm Corey Seidman, and I had a chance to catch up with Kevin Wilson, a Major League Baseball hitting consultant, to talk about the art of bunting. It's an area the Phillies have struggled this year, unable to lay down those sacrifices. So for you young players out there, pay attention to Kevin's tips. Here at Everybody Hits on 6th and Girard with Kevin Wilson, the Major League Baseball hitting consultant, hitting guru, and let's talk a little bit about bunting. Okay, we've seen the Phillies in the early part of the season really struggle with sacrifice bunts, going right back to the pitcher, popping them up foul. The lack of execution, is this becoming kind of a lost skill? You work with a lot of young players. Is it a lost skill these days?
Definitely a lost skill, I believe. I took pride in it as a player. I think a lot of people took pride coming up in it. It's a skill that's definitely lost. I don't think they properly execute it, obviously, but they don't practice it the way that they should. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. I know some guys, they take it and they try to stand like this and here, and all of a sudden now they're getting the front of their body exposed. They're not able to move out of the way. They're not able to do different things. There's other guys that are taught to do it kind of like this, where you're positioning yourself kind of a little bit, I guess, follow the back part of the plate out to be able to get a pitch like this. I think those two, I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I think at the same time, we gotta look for safety first. We gotta understand, okay, what are we trying to do here? Balls are flying all over the place, especially the younger guys. They don't know where it's going. I wanna protect myself at first. So there's a couple different options that you can have as a bunter. For me, I would like a guy to stand in the box, square here towards the pitcher for a couple different reasons for you. First of all, I need the protection to get out of the way. I need to defend myself in case the ball comes here. I can tuck, turn out of the way for safety reasons. Number two, when I square around to bunt, if I see the infielders, first, third baseman coming, charging, crashing, and they're literally standing right here, I can simply from here turn back around and I can have the threat of a slash or put the ball in play and take a swing. Now the other thing too is my setup here, obviously when I turn, I'll see a lot of guys with their hands up here, both hands here. What I like to do is, hey, when you turn around to bunt, you can choke up a little bit with the bottom hand here, still keep it towards the bottom part of the bat. Get your hand up here, not grabbed like this, but obviously pinching it up here around the barrel of the bat. And so you have some movement up and down. You're obviously going to use your legs to go up and down. You're not going to move the bat up and down. But the key to this is, why I'm holding it down here is when I can pull the bat back, all I got to do is slide that top hand down to be able to go. I'm already choked up just a tad, so I got more control of the bat, so I can have more control of this barrel. So when I'm here in this position, I want the bat to be at the top of the strike zone. Again, I'm in this position here. I can go up and down with my legs. The key that I see a lot of guys, they try to catch the ball on the barrel. They try to catch this ball right here on the barrel. What you would want to do to try to deaden the ball is try to catch it on the end of your bat. Try to catch it when you're catching the baseball, have that ball, so let me see your ball real quick, have that ball get right here on the end. Obviously this is going to be your most explosive part of the bat, the barrel, but if I get it here, you can even touch it. When you touch it like this, you can feel the vibrations all the way through your bat. When you get it right here, obviously then you dented the ball right here, so you're not hitting a double down the line.
For some more bunting mechanics, stay tuned because we have Kevin Wilson coming right back, and we also make some fantasy picks for the second half of the season, guys to keep an eye on. Don't go anywhere. Phillies Nation will be right back.
Behold, we are in the presence of champions. Fantasy sports legends who have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars playing online. Meet Arlie Gonzalez. Average guy, superior sports knowledge. Picked a team in minutes and won enough to throw the party of a lifetime. In outer space. Former accountant Derek Bradley. DraftKings One Day Fantasy Baseball took him from a guy with holes in his underpants to a guy with bikini models in them.
How do we turn our love of fantasy sports into reality cash?
DraftKings.com. They have one-day games, so you're not locked in. It's like a new season every time you play. And best of all, you could win a shipload of money.
Start playing today for your share of $1 billion. Use promo code PITCH and get free entry in our 100K baseball contest on opening day. More sports, more winners, more millionaires. Get to DraftKings.com now.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
I'm Brian Quinn from BQ Basement Systems. Call us for all things basement-y. Ask us about our poly-level concrete leveling system. It's a cost-effective, less disruptive, permanent solution. And it has a quick cure time. It can be driven over or walked on in 15 minutes after installation. Since 1997, over 7,000 customers have trusted us. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
Okay, so Kev, you just showed the hand placement for premium bat control, but how about the finger placement so that batters can avoid, an injury like this? What do you got?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the placement of the hand, we don't want the hand to be wrapped around here. Obviously, we're going to be looking like that. So I want to almost take like a thumbs up approach here and then place the bat right in the middle of that, so I can actually hold it here. There's a drill you can actually use to try to get this when the guy's throwing you a baseball and you're practicing bunting. You can practice using just one hand because it gives a little bit of a here. You can't jab at it or do anything like that. You don't want too light of a grip on it. but you want a strong enough grip that if someone's going to throw you a pitch, you can actually bunt it with one hand. That's a pretty popular drill, especially in pro ball, to be able to kind of use here and guide and be able to place that just with one hand. This is kind of your rudder, so to speak, but this is actually the one, when you have this type of grip here, you can actually have some feel with that.
We see a lot of pitchers, we see a lot of two-hole hitters show bunt immediately, at the beginning of their at-bat. Are you on board with getting in position right away, or should there still be a surprise factor even in a sacrifice situation?
In a sacrifice situation, most of the time, everybody in the ballpark knows what's going on. So for me, in a sac, I want guys to be able to get their time. Obviously, it's not when the guy's set here. It's somewhere where he's up here and he's at that breaking point here where he's able to kind of go. I want to be able to turn around and be able to show early. I want to get myself set up. I want to get myself set up in the strike zone. Obviously, I want to get close to the plate. We didn't talk about that before, but I want to be close to the plate so I have coverage here. A lot of players stand off the plate too much, and when they square up, they're only middle, maybe to in is what they're covering. So when I'm here, I want to be able to get in good position so I'm covering the entire part of the plate. It's not a surprise. It's not a squeeze play. It's a sacrifice. Everybody knows. My job is to get this ball down the ground, away from the pitcher, to both sides of the field, third or first, wherever I need to go, depending on the situation. And so I need to be able to establish my angle early. Establish my angle early to where I want to go. The worst thing that you can do is you're here, all of a sudden at the last minute you do this or you do that. That's why I think a lot of those balls start going up the middle when we make those last split-second decisions. I want to be able to get set up early, I want to be able to establish my angle and be able to work from there.
Lost art of the bunt. Young hitters, I would suggest rewinding this segment and watching it over and over and over again. He's Kevin Wilson, Major League Baseball hitting consultant. We're here at Everybody Hits at 6th and Girard. And that, my friends, is how you bunt. Now it's time to make some fantasy picks. Don't forget, Fantasy Baseball is sponsored by DraftKings. Play for free at DraftKings.com by entering the promo code PHIL. So this week, Rachel, we're going to look at guys to keep an eye on for the second half, not just this week. Who do you have fantasy-wise in the second half?
For my hitter, I have Jason Kipnis in Cleveland. You know, that pitching staff has been fantastic so far this season. You have to think if they want to make any sort of run that their hitters are going to have to step up. So I'm going with Jason Kipnis in Cleveland. And then for pitcher, I'm going with Carlos Martinez in St. Louis. That they're always make a great run in the second half, and that's thanks to their pitching staff usually, and he's been good so far.
He has. I think he has 10 straight quality starts entering the All-Star break. I'm going to stay in St. Louis for my hitter. I have Randall Grichuk. I actually used him a few weeks ago on the show, but I want to bring him up again for the second half because after Giancarlo Stanton, Randall Grichuk has the second highest hard hit ball percentage in all of baseball, according to StatCast. That's not a fluke. I mean, that shows that the ball really comes out lively off his bat with pop. Pitching-wise, I have Andrew Heaney of the Los Angeles Angels. He's a guy who was traded twice this offseason, once for D. Gordon, once for Howie Kendrick. He's a well-thought-of prospect, comes all the way across his body from the left side, kind of like Madison Bumgarner, and in 3 starts this year, 3-0 with a 1.32 ERA. So keep an eye on Andrew Heaney moving forward.
All right. Thank you very much to Kevin Cooney, Mark Leiter Jr., Jay Floyd, and Corey Seidman. Pat's back next week. Thanks for joining us on Phillies Nation.